Everything that's back there is just a trail. And it's all the tribal stuff and all the beliefs and all the things that you've been told that are back there. And if you use it to keep you from being able to manifest and attract into your life what you want, you're just living the illusion. Get out of the way. And as you get out of the way, understand that within you, you have the power to always put your attention on what you want. It's a new way of thinking. Catch yourself in every moment that you have your attention on what you don't want. You're going through a struggle, a tough divorce. I am only going to put my attention on being happy. And every time I have an inclination to put my thoughts somewhere else, I'm going to bring my thoughts to what it is that I want. With passion, and I will attract it into my life. And you can do that with healing. You can do that with making the job promotion that you want, creating the kind of relationship that you want, and manifesting anything into you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Now that you've heard all about the belief system, let's get into the knowing, huh? I think Wayne's basically laid out a very good map for how do we get beyond the belief system into the knowing. And that happens through the evolution of our own consciousness. What Wayne has been describing has actually a very beautifully laid out map in the great tradition of Vedanta. Wayne mentioned Jonas Salk, who was a great scientist in this area, great thinker, great philosopher. And one of the reasons actually I came to San Diego was because Jonas Salk was here. And in my first few weeks I met him, just shortly before he died. And Dr. Salk was already talking about meta-biological evolution. Meta, as you know, means going beyond. And meta-biological evolution means going beyond biology, the evolution of consciousness. He had just begun to talk about it. He was saying the old paradigm was about survival of the fittest. That was biological evolution. And he said the new criterion for fitness is going to be wisdom. So we're going to be talking about the survival of the wisest in the future. He did not get to articulate the roadmap that he was going to because he died before that could happen. And yet, if you look at the various perennial philosophies of humanity, what Aldous Huxley called the perennial philosophy of Emerson and Thoreau and all the great people that Wayne mentioned, and particularly if you look at Vedanta, which is the culmination of all Vedic thought, you see that there's a very, very clear map laid out for the evolution of consciousness. What Jonas Salk was trying to do was to define that map in biological terms, and that's why I was so attracted to him. Because what he was saying is that the ability to manifest and evolve into these other states of consciousness is a function of how our biology operates. For historical reasons, our biology operates mostly in what is called the fight-flight response. And the reason is that a long time ago in our evolutionary history, we were living in a very fierce environment. We were surrounded by predators. And in order to survive, we had to either run or we had to fight. And that's why we are here. That's why we happen to be around. When I was in medical school, the way we remembered the functions of the limbic system, which controls these very basic and important survival responses, are the 4 F's: feeding, fighting, fleeing, and of course procreation. And as a result of that, because of that, we are here. All you have to do is watch the news this last few days and you know what I'm talking about. The dominant activity is the 4Fs. All our movies are about it, and all our magazines are about it, and all the books we read are about it. So, as a result of this, what has also happened is that we have become the predator on planet Earth. If you could look at our planet from somewhere, some good vantage point in space, and ask yourself, who's the most dangerous animal on this planet? I think undoubtedly the answer would be Homo sapiens, the human being. We are the only species that kills its own kind, and mostly in the name of God, from before the Crusades to now, in Sarajevo and Sri Lanka and everywhere else, in India as well, the land of spirituality. We're the only species that kills other species and has successfully caused the extinction of other species. We're the only species that desecrates and pollutes our own mother, Earth. We're the only species that is now contaminating even space. And yet, we are a paradoxical species. We are the only species who actually writes poetry and creates music and architecture and all kinds of art and science. We're the only species that wonders about the meaning of existence. We're the only animal that asks, where did I come from? What's my life all about? Is there a God? And if she exists, does she care about me? What happens to me after I die? So in a sense, we are a very paradoxical species, and we are at that place in our evolution where we are being asked to make a choice, at a crossroads, if you will. Are we going to go the way of the predator, or are we going to join hands with the Creator and ensure the magnificence and the splendor and the beauty and the sanctity and the sacredness of that which we are a part? And I think the answer seems to be obvious. The choice is very clear. Either risk our own extinction or become creators. So as I've been listening to Wayne, who's been a great inspiration to me, he was already writing bestsellers before I was in high school.
It's a very long time.
Listening to great pioneers like Dr. Jonas Salk, reading Vedanta, it became clear to me that indeed there is not only a map but a nervous system that allows us to experience that map, not just study it, but actually know it, as Wayne was saying. So I've developed a kind of vocabulary to think about it for my own self. The most primitive response that we have is the fight-flight response. The second most primitive response, which also dominates our society, is what you and I might call the reactive response, where we have a stimulus and without any interval, without any pause, there's an immediate response to that stimulus. And the reactive response is in a sense the fight-flight response in a different form. It's the control drama that we engage in, that the ego engages in. Either we exercise that control drama with intimidation or confrontation or argument, or through indifference and stubbornness, or sometimes through manipulation that involves being extremely nice. Carlos Castaneda, in one of his books, says there are only three kinds of behaviors in this control drama, only three kinds of people: the nice, the nasty, and the indifferent. And in order to go beyond the reactive response, you have to actually, as Wayne was saying a few minutes ago, go beyond the stimulus and the response into the little space that's there between the stimulus and the response, where the witness resides.